In this Beaver Builder website Stripdown, we are joined by Dan Maby from Blue 37 Digital, who's going to show us around the amazing WordPress London Meetup site, WP&UP. Dan is a lovely guy who does so much interesting and useful stuff for the WordPress community. We couldn't cover that here, so he agreed to come on the WP Builds podcast and be interviewed by Nathan. So we are going to be releasing these together, and I'll put the link to the podcast down below. But I hope you enjoy this strip down half as much as I did. I think it's a fabulous one, and I'll see you on the other side. Hello, Dan.
Hey, David. Great to be with you.
Do you know what? Before I kind of let the show go over to you entirely, I want to say a big thank you, because you organised the WordPress London meetups, among other things. And I was lucky last year to attend a couple of those, and they're just phenomenal.
Oh, thank you.
No, people should go to these. They were the first that I'd been to. I've never been to one of these meetups before, but there's great speakers, a great excuse to meet people that you've only known online in person. Free food, free beer, and swag.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, they're a great event. I mean, and there are so many run locally now, both UK and worldwide. There really isn't any excuse not to attend a local meetup.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. And it gets even better now, because that's what we're doing today. We're doing our strip down, which is actually looking at the site you built for the London meetup. So my cup of joy is overflow.
So back in, when was it? I think it's about 2013. I think I attended the WPLDN meetup and just absolutely fell in love with the community, what it was doing, because it was Keith Devon who actually started the event way back when. And just being around the community, being around other people that kind of like-minded individuals, I just had to be part of it.
Oh, well, it's fabulous, and it seems to be that you're doing all the work. Every time I've been there, it seems like it all falls on you.
There is a great team behind the scene.
Well, Dan, look, normally I would ask somebody to cover what they do, a bit about yourself and your company, which your website is there, isn't it?
It is, yes.
But I'm going to just say, before you go on, we can keep this one short, because I've managed to persuade you to come on the WP Builds podcast and talk with Nathan, so we can tie these two things up together, because there's a lot to talk about.
No, looking forward to that. I really appreciate the invite.
Okay, so just a bit of an intro to who you are and what your agency does.
Yeah, sure. So Blue 37, we are a digital agency. We predominantly focus on WordPress at the core for our CMS, although it's not the only CMS. We do quite a bit with some flat file CMSs as well. But as I say, for me personally, the WordPress community is something very special. So it's great to be able to run a business that has that at the core.
Fantastic. Shall we move actually rapidly? Because I tell you what, I realised the site we're looking at today has got so much going on. It's a fantastic site, but you're using Beaver Thema with pods, relational data. You've got custom post types and custom fields and fantastic search going on. So there's so much to cover. I don't even know where to start.
Yeah, it is great. We've got, as you said, lots of custom post types, lots of custom taxonomies, lots of bidirectional relational data, and all of it managed through using the interface with Beaver Thema and Beaver Builder. So yeah, should we dive in and start off with a homepage here, shall we?
Yeah, please.
So yeah, I mean, here on the homepage we've got quite a bit. It's obviously pulling in all the events, all the talks that are going on. So this here is pulling in not just blog posts, but a couple of custom post types as well. That was kind of our first starting point with this site. You can see here on the right with the apply to speak at WPLDN, that's actually some content that's being hooked in through one of the hooks that are available. We're using the Astra theme core, so we've got a child theme in place. We carry on down, as you said, we've got so a bit deeper into that in a moment. So we are pulling in our lovely sponsors, which help us make it all happen. And as we carry on down, we end up in the footer, which Again, we've tried to keep quite clean. We've selected a very limited palette of colours, so the greys, whites, and the contrasting orange. A big part of this was ensuring that the colour contrast was accessible. We want to ensure that obviously the content is available to as many people as possible.
Yeah, Dan, can I just ask, because before we step too much into the detail, usually I ask somebody about what the client needed, and in effect you are the client, but is this your design entirely, or did you have to do it by committee?
No, so if I give you a little bit of history actually on that, back in, I think, when was it, about 2014, 15, I tried to run an open source project that would open up the design and the development of this site to the community. We had a phenomenal response. We had some really great people involved in the project. Unfortunately, due to ill health on my part, that project fell by the wayside, which was a real shame because there were some incredible designers and developers involved in the project. For quite some time, I really wanted to try and revamp similar style project, but as with most things, it was just time that was the issue. So I actually took it upon myself to take this site and do the full design and development in-house.
Yeah.
We've been speaking with the team, obviously the WP&UP team as well, just to get some feedback. But it was actually a very, very rapid design and development process. It was actually 6 days from initial concept through to launch.
Wow.
So it was a rather bit of a breakneck speed project, this one.
Yeah, and it's fabulous. It's so, it is accessible. Did you have to, was there any criteria there on the accessibility? I mean, I'm skipping ahead again. I do this terrible because, there's something I didn't know about on this, which I like, which is the Amazon Poly. So the text speaks to you.
Absolutely. Yes.
And I guess that's about accessibility.
It is, yes, absolutely. So Amazon Poly, we've got it associated with a couple of custom post types as well as our posts. So you can see here on our talk custom post type, we've got the player here from Amazon Poly. And if I was to hit that, I won't, obviously, because we'll hear a bit of feedback. But if I was to hit that, you would hear the Amazon Poly service speak the content that is within this post. So just making the content really accessible to all users. It's a great way to be able to just listen to a post as opposed to have to sit and read through.
I love it. Do they charge you on your bandwidth?
They do. So you get 1 year free, and then post that you're charged, I think, off memory, is on a per word basis. But the costs are actually very, very minimal. I think when we uploaded the entire content of the site, it worked out just a couple of dollars. It really was very economical.
Oh, wow, great. Was there, talking about accessibility, was there any other challenges there?
No, we in terms of the color contrast, it was certainly something that we were aiming for. Gary Jones, who's on part of the, who's one of the organisers as well, does a lot of work around accessibility. So I managed to gain a lot of information and support from him. Also, one of our regular speakers, Graham Armfield, very, very active as well in the accessibility community. He has offered to do a full accessibility test of the site for us, which is awesome because we're going to see, I'm aware of some accessibility issues currently on the site. So it'll be good to get a professional such as Graham to go through and see what his report says for us.
Yeah.
I mean, it was certain things like, for example, if we jump back to the homepage, this is where the combination of Beaver Builder, Beaver Themer, and Astra really does become quite powerful. Because we can see on the homepage here, we've got quite a light background. So we've got the WordPress London font dark. If I scroll down, obviously that goes into a white background and we can see it's still dark. Whereas if we jump into another page, we can see we've got dark backgrounds and we've got the white color contrast on the WordPress London. And if we scroll down, we've got the dark color contrast.
Wow.
So it just really offers a lot of flexibility using the tools such as Themer and Beaver Builder.
Yeah, and how do you assign this? So you can assign this from the back end.
So this is just, jump in there. We're using, for that particular area, we're using the Astra header option that allows us to have If I show you on the front, we've obviously got the light one for the home page, and then we've got the darker background for all other pages. If we jump into the page headers for the Astra options, we can see we've got quite a few in here. And each of these is just giving us the flexibility to have the image and the color contrast on the background here. So
yes.
Where are we? Home. So we can see over here on the middle, we've got the display rules. So it's telling us where we're actually able to display the particular options that we have set up in here.
Yes. I'm familiar with this only recently, really, with Astra, but what you're using there is very similar to what Beaver Thema has with its part section of Thema.
Absolutely. Yes, which we're also utilizing. So I've moved everything around recently. So if we look under Beaver, Builder, again, we can see we've also got some locations. As you say, we're using some parts, some singles, and some archives. So there's quite a lot of lot going on here in terms of the structure of the site.
Yes. And when you were picking your tools, is pods something that you always decided you're going to work with?
Yeah, sure. It depends on the site that we're building. The pods for us, obviously, it's got very good options in terms of the relational data. Pods, or it's ACF Pro, the Advanced Custom Fields Pro, depending on what's required within the site that we're building. Because we knew within this site, if I jump into an event, for example, we can see here we've got so we've got the speakers, we've got where's it going to be held, we've got the information about when it's happening, links out to where to register for the event, the sponsors and the organisers. So it's pulling in a lot of data. We knew that there would be a lot of relational stuff going on. So pods was an obvious option for us for this site. But having said that, the ACF options will work very well alongside pods. So sometimes we will use the two in combination.
Well, that was new to me, because I kind of saw them as the standalones. Because one, I don't know if that's the case with you. You're probably more familiar with this than me, but I found that ACF fields were really nice for the client backend. Some of them displayed very nicely and were easy to use for the client perspective, perhaps more so than pods. But yeah, I realized that it didn't really matter. You could create your own custom fields independent of pods, or you could just add ACF to and use those for field connectors.
That's right, absolutely. Find with certainly with ACF is the repeater fields is very nice, but I'll work around with that. You'll actually see within this build, when we dive into the events pages and some of the others, the way the relational data works within pods means that we can effectively mimic the repeater fields quite simply.
Show me, please, because I've just done a video quite recently on using repeater fields, which is quite new to me. So
okay, yeah, no problem at all. Well, we jump into this event actually. So our events, when we build them, this piece of content here is pulled in by the page, so we don't actually edit that at all. The only piece of content we produce when we're creating an event, as you'll see in a moment, is just the explanation here. Everything else we just pull in from elsewhere in the site. So if we jump in, we can see we've got the title, we've also got a bit of content in here, and then as we scroll down, we've got the pods options. There is a great way of splitting these out into, at the moment they're all lumped under the one more fields, but they can actually be split out some future work. But as we can say, we've got the event date, we've got the times to and from. We have the price in there, that's predominantly for the schema data. We've got the event registration, which, as you can see on the front end, it's being pulled through to a nice button. And then we pull in the speakers, the talks, location, sponsors, and organisers.
Wow.
So as we're building an event, we just simply go in and select whichever sponsors are sponsoring the event, etc. So we don't have to constantly write the content for each one of these. So obviously, as you can see on the front end, it's pulling in obviously Annabelle, myself, and Gary as the organisers, because those are the three we select on the back end here. And if we had somebody else, or we even wanted to add a new organiser, we can do it all within the event here. So we're not having to jump out to a new window to do this, because the speakers is actually a custom post type. So we've got the event organizer, sorry, the organisers, sorry.
So yes.
It's a custom post type that we can simply jump in and create a new one if we wanted to.
Fabulous.
It offers a huge amount of flexibility, these bidirectional relational fields. If we jump into the organisers, for example, and let's go into myself, you can see, as I scroll down, you've got all the events that I've organised. Now, I don't have to do anything to populate these fields. It's a bidirectional with the event itself. So every time I create an event and I list myself as an organiser, it will populate here, and you can see on my profile all the events that I've organised. So we're getting multiple pages populated by simply selecting, making a few options, selecting a few options in the back end.
Dan, you just beautifully explained the power of this relational data. Yeah. Well, it's talked about a lot, and it kind of goes over the head of many people, and definitely me. So you need live examples. That's fabulous. I love it.
It's a very, very powerful tool, set of tools, and all readily available. I mean, it's certainly, if you're the Pods plugin is obviously an open source free plugin, and if you're in the Beaver Builder, Beaver Themer world, then obviously Bernard and the team have been doing a great job creating tools to link this data and display it on the front end.
Yes. I saw you mentioned about you could split out those fields even further. Was that something that was a prompt from Peter Lewitt?
Yes, absolutely.
I saw his comment in the, yeah, so he's become a real expert on this stuff. Yeah,
he has. Yes, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of Pods. We use it an awful lot. But if you look at the Pods UI in relation to the advanced custom fields, there's definitely a bit of a difference there. So being able to split out, I'd say Pods by default lumps everything under this one block of more fields. But yes, there are some nice little code snippets that will let us split this out.
Yes,
which is probably more relevant to the events. So if we were to split out, so for example, the event data, like the date, time, and price registration link, have that as one block, and then split out the speakers, talks, and locations. Just creates a slightly better UI, I feel.
Yeah. Dan, do you know, when you set about doing this project, I mean, did it just come to you this was the obvious way? Because I think this is the hardest bit, is when you think you're doing a project like this, and to the user, the site is really simple, but there's so much complex stuff going on. My problem always is, when I start a project, is how to go about doing it. So did you consider any other options? Did you think about an events plugin, or was it always this route? Oh, you did consider that?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, really for us, it was data first. Let's look at the data. What is it we're actually trying to present to the end user? And there was an awful lot of work that actually went on in the old WP&UP site, which I can actually pull up so you can see here. So this is what the old site used to look like. Kicking around for a while, this one. But if we jump into the back end of this one, we can see similarly, we've got supporters, locations, talks, speakers. Now, this was data that we had been working on. I say myself and the WP&UP team had been working on for quite some time, and we wanted to understand what it is we're actually presenting. So, although I say that this new WP&UP site was developed, it was a 6-day from start to finish. There was quite a bit around the kind of data structure had been done in the previous site, although it wasn't actually particularly well displayed to the end user on the old site. So I had a bit of a kind of a leg up, if you like, on how to kind of structure the site and some of the decisions around how we were going to present the data.
Do you know, there's one thing that I dare not miss this. There's a really fancy search engine on this. What's doing that?
So that is the Algolia platform. Now, this is a great bit of kit. If we let's just jump back on the front end, front homepage again. So we've got this search facility here, and if we start typing AC, we can see it's pulling in talks, speakers, and posts.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a live search, so as we keep going, we can see it's actually reducing the number of options that it's going to return. So we've got access. We've got 3 speakers here that have all given prominent accessibility talks.
Mm-hmm.
And if we were to just continue the search, it takes us to a search results page, which again has the results, and we can continue doing a live search. And obviously we can split down on particular the attributes, depending on which we want to drill down to. Now this was the Algolia plugin. And if I pull up the service, so this is a service that's a third-party service. We're actually using the community edition, and all this is doing is pulling our data into their service, and then as you can see here, this is we've got the Six Nations talk coming up, so it's pulled it in on the back end of our site through the plugin. We've limited it to talks, speakers, and posts. So on the front end, when we're doing our search, those are that's the only content that will actually be returned for us.
Wow!
So it's made for a very, very fast search facility, because all the kind of the heavy lifting is happening over here on the Algolia servers, and it's just been pulled in via their API.
Didn't even know about Algolia. So did you consider other options?
Yes, so we looked at the kind of the usual suspects, the Facet WP, a few of the other search plugins, and just really wanted to create something as light and as fast as possible that was providing relevant content, and just felt that the Algolia plugin was the right solution for this site. What I particularly like about it is the fact that you can, within your WordPress admin, determine which content is going to be searched, determine how much is going to be returned. But then you can then head over to the Algolia dashboard and start getting very, very granular in terms of the weighting of the content, as to really refine your search results.
Oh, I love that.
The search page itself, we just use their JS, their instant search JS. You've got a couple of other options. Took a bit more refining to get the look to match the site, and there's certainly still some improvements that we will be making on this. But overall, been very, very impressed with it as a solution for the search for this site.
I'm definitely going to be looking that up. I'm guessing it's probably a little bit pricey.
The paid-for versions can get up quite pricey, but to be honest, I'd say we're using the community plan here, which is available to all. I think you can have up to 10,000 records. So yeah, we've got a tiny portion of what's available to us, and we've got obviously 100,000 items a month can be indexed. We've only got 7,000 items. So, yeah.
Wow. Do you know what? There's something I spotted which I wanted to ask about. Now, I don't know which pages we're looking at. You've got a lot of tabs where you can sort of kind of Ajax sort now, is it under articles? You've got other articles you can sort through with some nice. There we are. The talks. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Now, I saw, because I had a little inspect, that you're using the UABB.
We are.
Module. Which one is it? Grids module? Or,
that's jumping. Yeah, so we're using the UABB. We've got, obviously it pulls in the latest talks. We've just got one talk up the top here, and then below that we've got all of the talks, and there's quite a few in here, as you can see.
Yeah.
So we wanted some way to be able to reduce your options. So we're just interested in the business talks, or we're looking at something relating to hosting. We can see obviously we're getting that filtered down for us. And if we were to jump into mobile, for example, we can see that we actually get a slightly different option. So we just have the drop down. So we've got, if we jump into the back end of the page builder for that particular page, we've obviously got the single talk up the top here. We've then got the UABB pulling in
advanced posts, yes.
The advanced posts pulling in all talks. So this is a fairly simple query for this one, and that is, sorry, jump back into that one. Obviously, we've set that to be only visible on large and medium devices.
Gotcha.
So way down the bottom here, the bottom of the talks, we've then got a second set of posts pulling in exactly the same query, but as you can see, we're using the drop down as opposed to the buttons for the filtering, just because it gives a better user experience on the mobile device.
Yeah, that's really good. Do you know, this is such a fabulous site. I'm so pleased you've shown us this. What am I missing? What do you need to show us that I've missed?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if we look at some of the, let's take a look at a talk, for example. So we've got, coming up this month, we've got a great talk on the Six Nations Match Centre. So I'm not sure if people are aware that the Six Nations Rugby website is actually built on WordPress. I think they're getting somewhere in the region of about 1.2 million concurrent users on match day on that site. So really looking at hearing this talk this month. But of course, this talk hasn't happened yet, so we haven't got a video. So we can see here, we've obviously got this, it's actually an SVG that's being displayed just to say, obviously, there's no video available. There's video, and we've also got a link to his slides. So again, we've got a bit of conditional data going on here. I quite have to jump into that page so you can see what's going on there. Now, we've got something a little bit odd going on in this page at the moment, which I need to jump into and find out what's going on. These are actually separate blocks, but we can see that if I roll over, we're just seeing the one block. Normally we'd see, obviously, these individual blocks within the page builder. So the temporary workaround is to jump into safe mode, which has been which is an incredible tool for us, because obviously it means we can still get in, we can start editing the data without worrying about too much what the problem is at this stage.
Yes.
So if I jump in, we can see this HTML on the front end. We've got obviously the video. So here we can see if-else statements going on. So if the WP&UP talk the video is available, that's what it will display. Else, if it's not available, it'll just display this SVG for us. Yeah, there's quite a few of those going on throughout here. So this one, we've just got an if statement because this is the slides button. So if the slides are available, it will display the button, whereas we've got a talk that doesn't have these slides in at the moment. It just doesn't display anything at all.
Fantastic. Now, I noticed, because you shared this on the Beaver Builder Facebook group, and one question was asked, I think, about content and how long you keep that content. You're keeping all content, aren't you? So past events are going to stay up for all time. Is that right?
That's right, yes. Yeah, we don't archive, we don't close any content at all. It's just available on an evergreen basis. We've actually got, what we've found is, going through, we've got an awful lot of very, very valuable content. I mean, I think there's a couple of hundred talks in here at the moment, most of which do have, I mean, there are quite a few, there's a bit of a backlog, but most of which do have videos associated with them. So there's a real rich set of content here available for those that are interested in WordPress.
This is great. What else? Hey, we covered quite a lot really well, I think, there. Is there anything else that...
we've got... I'm just going to jump into one of our talks again. Again, this is another third-party service that we're using here for the recommended talks. Recommended content. This is actually provided by one of our sponsors, Biblio. But again, it's a third-party service that we're offloading. So we've got within the Biblio dashboard here, if I jump into the plugin, we can see in the Biblio dashboard, it's got all of our talks, our content, our posts pulled in. If I jump into the plugins uncovered talk on the front end, I do a search. So plugins uncovered. We can see on this particular talk, we've got the related content down here, and in the Biblio dashboard, we've got it actually displays which talks or which content's going to be related to it. So this service actually scrapes the content, searches for the keywords, and then tries to match that with other content on the site.
Oh, that's clever. Yeah.
Very clever. It's meant that we've got what can be quite a heavy load on the server is actually being offloaded to the Biblio servers, meaning that we're getting this content being returned without any heavy hit on our server.
Great. Hey, before I move on, this is my level. That search that you just had in there, what was making that? That was a little, just like the way the top bar search moved. You had it move along the top there. Yeah, what are you using for that?
This one here. Oh, so we're actually using the default Astra search on this one.
Okay. That's simple.
Yes. Yeah, it's great. What we found with the Astra theme, just some of the flexibility. We kind of jump between the Astra theme and the Beaver Builder theme, just depending on what we're doing. Okay, yeah. So we're just looking again here at one of our talks. What we've recently done, and this is definitely still a bit of a work in progress, certainly trying to improve upon, we've actually open sourced our content as well. So at the bottom of most of the pages, you'll find this option to edit on GitHub. So if we click on it, open that one up, you'll actually find the piece of content that's up here available on GitHub for anybody to contribute towards. If we jump back to the WP&UP repository, you can see we've got pages, posts, speak and talks. So we've got a couple of custom post types that are being pulled in. So we're really trying to encourage the open source, or not encourage, we are actually providing the open source ethos across the site. I'd say that is still definitely a bit of a work in progress, that one. And there's lots of things that we want to improve upon within the site, but overall we're very happy with where it's at this stage.
Well, he should be. It's brilliant. Yeah, really one of my. I love this. This is I think this is my. Sorry, I'm going to insult everybody by saying this is my favourite Stripdown of all time. No, because there's such great stuff. It's right up my street.
Yeah.
Can I? Well, usually when I'm trying to, unless there's something you need to cover still, because there's probably stuff we've missed out on. But before I move to the end, I usually sort of talk about what you might learn from it, what you might do better in the future, and I guess how the site is performing. How long has it been live now?
Oh, good question. Off the top of my head, I can't remember. Not that long. Only a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks.
Right.
Maybe a bit longer actually now.
Do you measure that? Is you watching the visitors and where they're going, or is that for later?
Yeah. So we've got Google Analytics integrated with the site. So yes, do keep an eye on what's going on. To be honest, the previous site had been so unloved for so long that the traffic had certainly dropped off on that one. But we are definitely seeing an increase at the moment in traffic on this one. The big focus for us in a lot of what we've been doing here is ensuring that it is as lightweight and as fast as possible. So, I mean, for example, if we were to jump into the talks and want to look at all of them, we don't have a lot of images. We don't have any images, in fact, on this page. So it's really about trying to ensure that the pages are loading as quickly as possible to increase the experience or improve the experience for our end users.
Yes.
And we ensure that wherever we can, we're also using SVGs. So as I mentioned earlier, this one's actually an SVG. The logo is SVG. And not only does it help with improve the page load, but you can also do a few things with SVGs that you can't necessarily do with JPEGs or PNGs.
Exactly. Do you know what, Dan? I'd be completely remiss if I didn't ask you to just show us your plugins very briefly. I was moving to the end of this, but everybody likes to see that shot of the plugins.
We've got, what have we got? 23 here at the moment, 23 plugins. Because we had so many custom post types, custom taxonomies, well, that might be just something worth quickly touching on as well, the custom taxonomies.
Ah, yes.
I can come back to that. Because we've got so many of them, just needed something to manage the menus. Although Pods actually offers the option to move your menu items, because we had so many, WordPress is a little restrictive in terms of the placement of menu items from the Pods options. So we're using the admin menu editor, just gives us a slightly easier layout. As we mentioned earlier, we've got the great Amazon Poly, which we've been very impressed with. We've got the lightweight Google Analytics, a couple of bits for Astra. So we get the visual hooks. We activate that one. Again, we can see on the front end. Don't go too quick. So we show the Astra hooks on this one. We can see it's actually this piece of content here is being pulled in to the Astra sidebar before.
Great.
And then we got a couple of BB plugins, Thema, Gravity Forms. There's quite a bit going on there. Some Conditional Logic. Obviously the Pods, the wonderful Pods add-on for Thema. Got the fixed widgets, redirection, just ensuring that obviously some of the old sites, we want to make sure that's going to the right place. Biblio, the incredible Schema Pro from the Brainstorm Force guys.
Yes.
Who do the UABB and a couple of other BB tools. That one's been really helpful, actually, particularly around the events.
Have you had a chance yet to notice any difference, in your search results as a result of?
We have, yes, yeah. We are so we're using events, organised posts, and talks within the schema at the moment, Schema Pro. We are pulling in obviously details from our pods, so that's great. There are a couple of hard codes. We've got the addresses hard coded at the moment. We just need to do some more work around that for us to work properly. But we've certainly seen results on mobile devices. We're getting our events displaying correctly. So yeah, no, it's been a great little tool, very handy, and great for improved search results for us. And so we've also got the Algolia Search. We're hosted, one of our partners, SiteGround, hosts this particular site for us, which we're very appreciative of. A bit of SVG, obviously UABB, and we've got the GitHub sync, and of course the Yoast SEO.
Wonderful. Yeah.
We found it being a very powerful combination. We found the set of tools.
Yes.
And a lot of what we see here, we'll actually use on a lot of our client sites as well.
Good, great. Well, I took you back to plugins, and I was trying to lead our way out of this, wasn't I? So you could get on with the rest of your life. I could keep you all day, really, to be honest, talking about this stuff. But was there anything that went wrong that you would have done differently at the beginning of this? You only had 6 days that you were working on this, so anything you would have done differently?
I think one thing that I would probably do differently is the handling of the header images on the individual pages. We are using as I showed earlier, the Astra options for page headers. I think that it's the first time that we've done it. We've done this through the Astra options, and if I'm honest, I think we have a slightly better experience if we do it through the Beaver Thema layouts as opposed to the Astra.
Oh, that's interesting.
Just because we find that you have to go into the settings page here, and it is a case of actually changing settings as opposed to being on the front end and changing the layout of the item that you're working on.
Yes.
So if you go into any one of these, for example, the footer. That's just a part. We're getting the kind of the visual. We can actually change it without having to be in a settings screen as we are within the Astra.
Yes, that makes sense. Yes, and also you can access it can't you, from any page. Then I'm assuming, you know, because you've got the
That's
little
right.
drop down on your page builder. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Although I got to say the display rules have been very, very powerful
Mm.
within the Astra. So it's a great tool. I think if you're maybe if you haven't got the Beaver Thema plugin,
Mm.
but you do have an Astra Pro license, I think it's an incredible tool.
Yeah, I
I think they've
agree.
done a great job with it.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, it's one of the thoughts I've been having because I've, you know, playing around much more with Astra now, and it's like, you know, when would I use parts and when would I in Beaver Thema and when will I use
Mhm.
what Astra use? So that's a good thought there. Like
Sure.
that.
Mhm.
Thank you. Um, well, and to usually ask you what are you most proud of with this?
Ooh, great question. um, what am I most proud of? All of it.
Yeah,
Is that a fair answer?
I think it is.
No, I think
I'd be over the moon if I'd done this, and yeah, it just comes together beautifully. I love it.
I think the thank you. I think the relational stuff we're particularly proud of. I think the fact that you can obviously create an event, add in a speaker, add in a talk, and actually as you've created that event and added both the speaker and the talk, they're both connected and visible on the front end within either the speaker's profile or within the talk itself without us having actually to do anything additional.
Yeah,
I think that's a very smooth workflow for us.
yeah, that's great. Okay, well, I think I've taken up enough of your time. Thank you so much. We're going to take up more of your time on the WP Builds podcast as well.
Looking forward to it.
um, Thanks so much, Dan. I mean, you know, I hope to see you actually later in the year. I hope to get to London and come to another one of your London meetups. So
Sure.
get to
No,
meet you
great to see
again.
you. No, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. It's
Yeah.
been fun.
All right, so we have to get out. So I'm going to say I'm David Waumsley. Goodbye, everyone. And you are?
I'm Dan Maby. Lovely to speak to you all.
Okay, bye-bye all.
Bye.